Hello everyone, I have a great news. Polish Grandmaster Dudan Krzysztof has won his match against the reigning World Chess Champion Magnus Carlsen in the semi-finals of FIDE World Cup. Isn't it a great news? Yes, it is. I really did not believe when I looked at the result because I was shocked like, whoa, wow, what happened? Duda won against Magnus Carlsen because everybody means I am a big fan of Magnus Carlsen, but the way Duda has played in this World Cup is truly amazing. In this previous match which he played against Vidit Gujarati, he played in a very amazing style and he won that match also. And today also, it was a great day for him. Well, we will be going straight to the game and we will see what happened in the game. How did he manage to win against the World Chess Champion, knocking out of the World Cup? It is. I'm just too much excited, you can say. And before we go further, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are new here. So here, Magnus Carlsen was white, Dudan Krzysztof was black, and they started with e4, then c5, knight f3, d6, and now he plays bishop to b4, b5. Well, bishop b5, whenever you play, it is Moscow or Sicilian, you can say. It avoids all the main lines. So here, Dudan Krzysztof, of course, he is prepared because Magnus has employed this bishop to b5 in several World Championship games also. Bishop to d7, bishop into d7, queen into d7, castle, everything is normal, developing the pieces, knight f6, then he plays queen to e2 and knight to c6. Well, now he plays c3. Of course, the c3 move is played in order to play d4 at some point in this position, and now e6. Well, this bishop is going to e7 square. That's what I must say. d4 is played on the board. C captures d4, c captures d4, and now what to do? Well, I will tell you one thing, that controlling the center is very important in any opening, and that's what happened in this game also. Here, Duda played d5. Why is he playing this move? Well, if you play e5, then he will go for knight to e4. Usually knight d2 is played, and then after knight captures d2, bishop captures d2. The question is like, what will we do with this bishop? Because if the endgame appears, then this bishop will be a little bit sad because his pawns are there on the same color of that bishop. And exactly similar thing happened in the game also, which we are going to see. So believe it or not, that bishop on d2 is going to be a bad bishop after some time. But stay around with me. Here Duda says like, okay, let's play bishop b4, exchange the bishops. But Magnus says, no, I want to keep that bishop on the board. He plays bishop to f4 and now he simply castles. The thing is that why white is keeping the bishop there on the board, because he is hoping that someday or some way he will be getting some counterplay on this side of the board, means on the king side, and maybe, you never know, there will be some sacrifices. That's why he plays queen to d3, preparing for knight to g5 and attack the pawn on h7. What will he do? Well, he plays a simple move, bishop to e7, stopping knight to g5. Okay, now a3, and now the most important thing is like controlling the open file. Always remember this thing. There are three principles which you should always remember. One thing is like which piece belong to which square. For that, if you are always confused, then follow this thing. Okay, knight belongs to the center of the board, bishop belongs to open diagonals, and rook belongs to open files. So that's what he played. Rook a c8, g3 is played on the board, and now knight is going for the holes. Knight to a5, b3. Of course, knight c4 was the threat over here. Okay, so he plays b3, stopping that thing. Queen c6, further controlling the c file, and he plays bishop to d2. Okay, queen c3 is stopped. In this case, he plays queen to b6, attacking the pawn on b3. He plays a rook f b1, supporting the pawn, and now a6. King to g2. Now he plays knight c6, coming back in this position and attacking the pawn on d4 also. Rook to e1. Fine. Queen to b5, going for the exchanges. If you exchange the queens, okay, that is also one of the interesting options in this position. The point is, black will be putting some pressure on the a file. Of course, he is already having some good control of the c file, but putting the pressure on the a3 pawn will be more better for him. So that's why he did not exchange the queens. He plays queen to b1, and now he doubles the rooks on the c file. So slowly and gradually, Duda is taking control of the game. You will see how. He plays h4 in this position, rook f c8, and now once the knight will move from the c6 square, rooks will be controlling the c file, and it might give black a very good advantage, I must say. Rook to a2, controlling the c2 square here in this position, and now he plays a5. No more b4. If b4 comes, then he will just capture it. Rook to h1. Well, I really don't understand why did he play this move, but maybe he wants to expand on this side of the board. That's why he played it. a4. Duda is just going for the forward, like he's saying like push your pawns forward otherwise just capture this thing. If you push the pawn forward, then c4 square will be bad, and that's what I was telling earlier also. This bishop is getting more and more control because his pawns are there on the same color of the bishop. Okay, and this is called as the color strategy. Black will be very much happy to play on the light squares because there white doesn't have any kind of control. Now how the things happen, we are going to see more. h6 is played, of course knight g5 and all those kind of threats are removed. Bishop to e3. Now he plays knight a7. Rook needs to have some files, right? Here bishop to d2, and now he plays queen to e2. Okay, rook e1 attacking the queen. Queen moves back to c4 square, and now you can say this position is like the reverse of Alekhine gun. We know that then that in Alekhine gun two rooks are front and the queen is behind, but here the queen is front and two rooks are behind, but it's okay, that's fine. As long as you are controlling the c file, everything is fair. He plays rook to e3. One thing is there that rook e1, rook c1 you can go for, but then I think queen b3 will be good for black here in this situation. So he plays rook to e3, and now he plays knight b5. The pawn on a3 is being attacked, plus the pawn on d4 is also being attacked. What should he do? Well, he defends everything with rook to d3, and now rook c6. Well, as we said, color strategy. Black is putting all of his pieces, almost all of the pieces on the light square. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Most of the black pieces are on light squares because white is having this stupid bishop on the board. Well, nothing is really bad until now in this position, but maybe, you never know. Rook to b2 was played, then he plays bishop d8. Of course, he is going for this b6 square if it's needed to protect, like attack the pawn on d4 square. He goes for this thing, bishop to b6, attacking the pawn on d4. He supports the pawn, bishop e3, knight c3, queen f1, and now he plays queen b5. Well, rook c2 is played, knight e4, going for the rook exchanges. He exchanges the rook, rook into c6, rook into c6, rook to d1, and now you can already see that color strategy is being continued. Knight to d2, knight into d2, and finally black is having quite good position, I must say. Positionally he is better because the pawn on d4 is a constant weakness which he needs to protect. Plus the a3 pawn can also become a little bit weak in the future. Okay, so he plays queen c6 here. Of course, the idea is to play rook to c3 and attack the pawn on a3 square. He plays queen e2, rook c3 comes, he defends the pawn with rook a2. Now the rook changes his direction. Rook goes to d8 square. The rook is going, bishop goes to the other direction. Bishop attacks the pawn on h4 square, g5, h into g5, h into g5, and now here he plays queen to c4. Why is he playing this move? Because he wants to exchange the queens. Otherwise, if you don't exchange the queens, the queen will be moving in the game, and the a3 pawn will be under attack, and that's not something he wants to. Let's suppose you play queen to d2, which is a possibility. Now what are the options? Well, we have this thing, queen can move here. Otherwise, there is also one more interesting option is there. I just want to show you. That option is bishop to b6. Okay, bishop b6 is the option in this position by which you will be attacking the pawn on d4. Now next move is to play rook d3, and the pawn on d4 will fall. Once the pawn on d4 will fall, all the structure means the structure from white side will be collapsing very soon. So he plays queen into c4, d into c4, getting a passed pawn in this position. Well, Magnus says I am also going to get some counterplay. He plays d5, he captures d5, and now he plays rook to d2. This is the best practical way, but here Duda made a mistake in time pressure. Both were playing in tremendous time pressure. This is the position, and here rook into a3 was the best move. The point is, after rook into d5, rook d3 should be played, and after this, okay, if you exchange, then the position will be similar to the game, but here black will be having this passed pawn, and this will decide the game. Let's suppose you play bishop to c1, then black can just play a3 move in this position because now he is going forward. And now if you play king f1 or something like this, then of course a2 is there. If bishop to b2 will be played, now this bishop will just capture the pawn, and you can already see that this position is clearly winning for black. Black will just come over here and he will just win the game. So this was a clear-cut win, but instead of this thing, he played rook to d3, and now it gave chances to Magnus Carlsen to survive in the game. And when I was looking at this game live, I felt like, okay, Magnus is going to draw this game and maybe he will force the tie breaks and then he will win the tie breaks, but that did not happen. What happened is like both sides just kept on bringing the kings in the game, king e3, king f5, king into d3. The position is equal, okay, but Magnus Carlsen goes for something more. Here in this position, maybe he should have just played king d4, or even I think bishop can also be played on c5, because the moment you capture here, the king into f4 move you play, then the best move is to play bishop d6. You cannot really capture. If you capture, then the pawn is just queening in this position. The pawn will just queen, you cannot stop it. And if you move anywhere, let's suppose you move here, then e6 will come as a discovered check. If you capture here, then again he can capture this pawn and the pawn will be queening. So white was winning in this case. So the game will be drawn if they keep on playing this bishop to c5, bishop to e3. But Magnus says like, okay, I'm going to go for something more. He plays b5, and now after b5, here there are some chances. Magnus Carlsen is saying that I am going to go for the a4 pawn, but that did not really happen because of the bishop d8 move. King comes on the d4 square, he plays bishop d6 check, king goes here, again he is waiting, king d4, bishop e7, and now the pawn on a3 is weakened. He plays king e6, bishop to b2. Just see the drama now. King c5, bishop a5, not allowing king to b4, any business. King d6 is also not allowed. Bishop to c1. This was the final mistake in the game. What he should have done in this position is like just stick around, play bishop to d4. If bishop d2 is played, of course bishop c1 was played in order to protect the pawn on f4, but that was not needed. And after bishop to d2, here the good move is to play king b6, and suddenly you will not believe that white is the one who will be winning the game here. Because if you capture bishop into f4, then king into b7 will be played. If king goes anywhere in this position, the thing is like now the king will go to c6 square, followed by the pawn will be just queening in that case. And if you capture this pawn anytime, okay, we can just capture, and white's pawn will be queening first, and white should win the game very easily, because his check is there, sorry, and it should be winning. Okay, so that was the last chance. Bishop d4 should have been played, but Magnus plays bishop to c1 in time pressure, and after bishop to c3, it's all over. The tables have turned a lot, and now he plays b6, d4, and rest is just, as you say, the matter of technique. He plays bishop to e3, last resource. If he captures, something will happen, but he did not capture. He plays bishop to b2, bishop into d4, bishop into a3, bishop e3, and the pawn is just going to decide everything. This king is stuck over here. The king is just going to go up. He went up, and now bishop d4, the pawn is also lost. He goes for a bishop to f2. The point is bishop g3 followed by bishop into f4 is going to come on the board, and black will be winning all of these pawns because the pawns are on the dark square. So I hope that you enjoyed the game, the analysis which we did. It was a very quick one, but I enjoyed this game. I was kind of happy also today. And now the finals will be between Duda and Christoph, and Karjakin, Sergei Karjakin, and they both are qualified for the candidates. Now we'll see what happens in the candidates, who is going to be the World Championship challenger. But before that, World Championship is also going to be there. So stay tuned for the next video. We'll be meeting very soon. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and take care. Love you all.